which is linear programming. But then, before we go into linear programming, I thought it wise that we should have the introductory part. It has to have a prerequisite of the linear programming. That's why we are going to start with Form 3 topic, which is inequality. So let's get started. Inequality, the first thing that we have to look at is inequality symbols. So we have symbols that will help us to know the inequality, the meaning of every inequality that we are going to come up with has to actually be identified by using its symbols. So we have mostly commonly used symbols like 4 symbols. So for you to understand better about the inequality symbols, let's take a look at the number line. So we have our number line, which is basic knowledge that I'm pretty sure that you have it from junior mathematics. The number line, we have a 0 here. Numbers range from 0 going to the right hand side, that's positive numbers, while the numbers that range from 0 going to the left hand side, they are negative numbers. So whenever we have our inequality pointing towards the right hand side direction, that one is greater than. While the inequality that points towards left hand side, that's to the negative numbers, that one is less than. That's why we are trying to mean that we have greater than, which is pointing to the right hand side, less than, which is pointing to the left hand side. Let's take a look at the rules that we are supposed to use when we are solving inequality. So students must know this. So you can take a look at the video, you can pause it. So in this topic, we are going to discuss 2 major parts. That's on the part 1, we're going to discuss about forming inequalities from given region. Let's take a look at the example under forming inequality from given region. So as you can see, we have been given this region, region A, such that the question is saying that we should write 3 equations from this given region. Now, we are going to solve this one step by step. As you can see from your question, this question is being taken from the money paper, which is printed 12 paper. So here, I'm going to label these equations. I'm going to label this one as 1. I'm going to label this one as 2, and I'm going to label this dotted line as 3. So let's start with 1. So as you can see here, the interpretation now here may become difficult because some people confuse these things. Like they think just because this line is vertical, that means its equation is y. But then just consider the line which this vertical line is cutting. So a vertical line is cutting x-axis. That means this inequality, the equation that will be extracted from this line is going to be x equal to the number that has been cut here. So you can see this line is crossing. That means we have x is equal to y. So as you can see, this is positive side. So this is x is equal to 1. So the first thing first, you have to come up with the equation before coming up with the inequality. So in this case, since we have come up with the equation of this line, what would be its inequality? Now, the consideration now here is that if this part is being shaded, that means this part is unwanted region. So if it is unwanted region, the inequality is going to be talking about the wanted region which has been left out. It hasn't been shaded. That means the wanted region is this part. So as you can see, this is 1. As you go down here, there is 0 and negative numbers. Those numbers are less than 1, while these numbers are greater than 1. That means this side is talking about the greater numbers that are here because they haven't been shaded. Therefore, we can conclude that the equation of this one, considering that this line is solid, that means is literally is x greater than or equal to inequality. Let's go to second. This is our second inequality. So we have this line. So as you can see, this line is cutting y-axis. So if it is cutting y-axis, that means this inequality, the inequality that is going to be indicated by this line is going to talk about y. That means it's going to be of y. But in this case as well, as you can see here, downward here, there are less numbers, like from 0 up to downwards is negative numbers, while there are positive numbers. That means 0, since this line is closing on 0, that means we're going to say this line, its equation is y is equal to 0. How about its inequality? Meaning to say its inequality will be y, just because we have the less numbers that are being shaded down here, but the greater numbers are not shaded. They are on the region that hasn't been shaded. If we consider this line, that means we are talking about the greater numbers of 0. So meaning to say 1 up to upwards. They are the numbers that are being talking about this inequality. Therefore, we can literally say this one will be y greater than or equal to 0. Greater than or equal to 0y, just because it's solid line as well. So let's come to equation number 3. So for the line number 3, this is going to be a linear inequality. So if we go back to our knowledge, we can reflect that the linear equation, its general formula for linear equation, its general formula is y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, y is equal to mx plus c. Now, what is m? It's called gradient. How can we find the gradient? By saying change in y over change in x. But what is change in y? Change in y is just the same as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus xy. That's the formula we can use to find the gradient. We go back to our graph here. We have 2 points, this point and this point. So when we talk of gradient, portion that we can do, the slope of the line rather. So here we have coordinates. Our x value here it's 0, our y is 3. Here as well, our x value is 3, our y it's 0. So we can just label these ones. Say this is x1, this is y1, this is the x2, this is the y2. So according to the formula, change in y, y2 that's 0 minus y1 that's 3 over x2 that's 3 minus 0. So here we are going to have negative 1. So negative 1 is our gradient. Let's find. For us to find this one, we can just substitute gradient for 1 as negative x plus c. For us to find this c, we can just consider any coordinates, maybe these ones. So as you can see, if we choose this set, we can substitute x, substitute with 3 plus c, here it's 0. So that means c is equal to, if we do c subject of the formula, c is equal to 3. Therefore, the equation will be y is equal to negative x plus 3, since c is positive. So this is our equation. But we haven't found our inequality. So for us to come up with the inequality symbol, here we have to consider the shaded region. The shaded region is this side. So as you can see, these numbers, since this line at the x-axis is starting at 3, so you have numbers that are greater than 3 here. That means those numbers are not important. Here as well, the numbers that are greater than 3 here, those numbers are not important. But as you can see, the region that hasn't been shaded is a region which has numbers that are less than 3. It means our inequality to talk about the numbers that are less than 3 here, and as well this side less than 3. It means we are talking of y less than negative x plus 3, or rather y less than 3 minus x. So this is our answer. Let's take a look at second example. We had our example, first example, and let's go to second example. This is as well the Moneyball question, 2017. Asking us to find the other three inequalities because they have given us one. So this one is excluded because it has already been given. So our focus is, so we can label them, label this one as 1, and this one as 2, and this one as 3. So this is the simplest one, just like the way we have seen the previous one. So we are going to apply the same rules, that since this line, of course, it is x-axis, but then it is cutting on the y-axis. The equation of this one is y is equal to 0, since it's cutting at the 0. But it's inequality now. As you can see, the numbers that are down here, they are less than the numbers that are up there. So those numbers that are being shaded are less. That means those are not important. But the number, the inequality, will be talking about the numbers that haven't been shaded, because those ones are the ones that are important. Therefore, we can literally say our inequality will be y is greater than or equal to 0, since this is a solid line. Let's go to, so for inequality number 2, as you can see, it is as well a linear equation or linear inequality. So we have 2 points. We have this point, 2 coordinates. Our x is 0, our y is 4, and we have here our x is 8, our y is 0. And we can literally label them. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So we are going to do the same thing like we did with that the previous question. So we're going to find the gradient, of which is not news to you by now. You know the x over 2 plus 4, and because 4 is positive. Therefore, now to find the symbol that is going to be represented this inequality. For this equation to become inequality. So the line is marked here and here. That means we have the values that are shaded that are greater than 4 this side, and we have values that are shaded that are greater than 8 this side. So those values have been shaded. That means they are unwanted. And here, these values have been shaded. That means they are unwanted. So you can see the remaining region are the numbers that are less than 4 as well as less than 8 respectively. Therefore, our inequality is going to be y is less than, consider the line is solid, less than or equal to negative x over 2 plus 4. This is our second inequality. So we're going to do the same with this third inequality. Consider the line is, therefore, y less than or equal to negative 2x plus 8. So this is our third inequality. Therefore, we have the first one, the second one, and the third one. That's it. So, thank you very much for watching. The exercise for part 1 and solve it, please, and give the feedback in a comment. Thank you very much.